Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Chopra. Our focus right now is, of course, ISRO. Ahead of the docking experiment, the Indian Space Research Organization has conducted a trial attempt with both the SpaDex satellites Chaser and Target coming as close as 3 meters to each other. The mission, which was launched on the 30th of December, aims to demonstrate in-space docking using a small spacecraft. If the mission turns successful, India will become the 4th nation in the world, only after US, Russia and China, to master the complex technologies that are crucial for its future missions, such as bringing samples from the moon, setting up our own space station by 2035 and sending a human to the moon by 2040. During the docking experiment, the SDX-01 Chaser is expected to finally join with the SDX-02 Target. The docking and undocking capability, like I said, is essential for future missions that require heavy payloads which cannot be carried in a single launch. For example, the Bharatiya Antariksha Station, which will of course be the Indian Space Station, will be built by bringing together 5 modules, the first of which is planned to be launched in 2028. But since it will be done in phases, we do require to master this particular technology to ensure that all 5 modules join by the time it is 2035 and our space station is, for example, ready. According to ISRO, the SpaDex mission is a cost-effective technology demonstrator mission for the demonstration of in-space docking using these 2 small spacecraft. And as I mentioned earlier, if ISRO does succeed in this mission, India will become the 4th country in the world to have space docking technology. Where have we reached so far as the tests are concerned, and why is this truly crucial to India's space mission? We take this conversation forward. I have with me on the broadcast Mr. Suresh Nayak, former ISRO scientist, Wing Commander S. Sudhakaran is also with us, Group Captain V.N. Jha with us on the broadcast, and Mr. P.K. Ghosh, space strategist, with us as well. Let me begin this conversation with Group Captain V.N. Jha. Group Captain Jha, I once again turn to you, sir, to explain some of the complexities and essentially the importance of this mission to our viewers who are watching us right now. I've tried to summarize it in simple language as much as I can, but I'd really like to bring you in on this point and really explain why is it that India needs to develop its own space docking capabilities, because as we've mentioned, US, Russia, China, all of them have it. Why is it that we're not looking at them, and why do we need it ourselves?
Well, very good evening, Devika. You really introduced the subject very well, and this particular technology is up for actually validation. The technology that ISRO is using is slightly different from what US, China or Russia have done in the past. And while trying to validate their technology, they have done reasonably well. You know, in the R&D where there is nothing called failure. We don't expect anything to be failing. Everything that happens is the product of how our approach have been. And this particular mission of ISRO, SpaDex, in the docking technology, it is trying to validate 3 things. Firstly, the rendezvous, wherein the chaser is trying to close onto the target. For example, right now here there is a target satellite, there is a chasing satellite. Chaser is trying to come very close to the target. This is one. This implies that in the future, when there is an Indian space station or there is some Gaganyaan wherein the supply has to be given subsequently, then when we send the supply, that supply, or if there is a space station, to that space station there could be changing of the crew, sending of the supply. So this has to go and dock with that space station. Docking has to be precise so that there is no leakage at the interface, and then whatever we have sent from the Earth, that goes inside the space station or the crew module, whatever we have. So this is the first thing, that is the rendezvous, that wherever the chaser may be there, at whatever altitude, whatever separation, Right now we are trying to validate for a separation of about 2 to 3 kilometers distance. In the future, it could be 100 kilometer distance away. So the chaser should be able to close on to the target, or the supply vehicle should be able to close onto the space station, that is the rendezvous. This time rendezvous has worked finally, since the satellite today is nearly 3 meters away from the target. So it has worked, but it had hiccups, and these hiccups in R&D, we welcome it. That means it has given you the inputs, the variables, the sensitivity, that what all can go wrong will go wrong. In the science, we say that whatever can go wrong, it will go wrong at one day or other. So some input has gone to the ISRO, additional inputs, wherein the rendezvous technique may have to be slightly modified to give an impetus for the 3D separation as far as possible. Right now it was 2 to 3 kilometers. In the next trial it could be about 100 kilometers away. So that is how this is the rendezvous. Second is the docking. Now rendezvous and docking, that is the most intricate maneuver what is going to be there. Right now, if this is the target which is in the orbit, and if this is the chaser, it has been brought to about 3 meter separation from the target. Now from 3 meters, now it will slowly go and just dock into, there is a plunger, androgynoid sort of interface we call it. It will go and just sit there absolutely in the precision. The error of margin is just about 1 degree that ISRO has given. We would have wished that about 3 degree of error of margin being given. They is slightly different in the hardware technology. But anyway, this is how ISRO is going through. So this is what is now expected from 3 meters. Now from 3 meters, when it closes onto the target, it has to be in the absolute precision. That means even the roll, if it is slightly, if angle of the chaser is slightly out, more than 2 degree, it will not go in. 2 degree in whatever position, either it is in the pitch or yaw or roll, whatever position, it will not go there. Secondly, the speed. With the speed that the plunger goes into the socket, also make a difference. If it is too harsh, it may damage the port. If it is too soft, then it will not lock in there. So after it goes and sits there properly, the locking system that comes into play, and it locks, and then there is an immediate test of there is no leakage at the interface. There will be gases tomorrow when crew go. That is the compressed module. That is the pressurized modules, and then the gas should not leak in that when the two sit together. So these are the two things that will immediately happen. In the chaser, what is there? There is also additional power supply into this. The solar panels are there that will give the power to the target. That is in the design model. So the moment it interfaces, the power will start going into the target, and then the other processes are there, some tests and other things there, as well as the last thing that will have to happen. It will again have to undock. There is a small plunger here in the target that will push the chaser away from it, and then the chaser motor will make it the separation go more, and then it will reduce in the speed. At the moment it is reducing the speed, velocity it decreases, so it will start coming down, because the centripetal force will be now more than the centrifugal force, and it will start coming down, and it will make the re-entry into the atmosphere. So this is how it is, entire thing going to be there. Till now, ISRO has done what it had to do. There have been hiccups, of course, there is no doubt, but I'm sure the scientists are very, very, professional. They must have run this particular simulation hundreds of times. They must have made the docking on the Earth so many times that they must be very confident. And it is only that last bit of precision, absolute precision, into which the error is less than 1 degree, that has to make, and then it will close into the chaser and make the docking. Devika.
Okay, interesting. Thank you so much for that very detailed explanation. So I want to, on that note, also bring in Mr. Suresh Naik into the conversation. Mr. Naik, like I've mentioned, the United States has this ability, Russia has it, China has it, but the US was the first to conquer it. Back in the day, it was essential for US. They demonstrated this the rendezvous, which has just been explained by Group Captain V. N. Jha, which is bringing the spacecrafts close to one another and docking to achieve the objective of sending humans to moon, essentially. So in 1966, the Gemini 8 spacecraft became the first to dock with the Agena target vehicle. It was a crewed mission orbiting the Earth. Interestingly, one of the astronauts on board was Neil Armstrong, who went on to become the first person to set foot on the moon in 1969. But while the US mission had astronauts on board to steer the spacecraft, Soviet Union in 1967 demonstrated the first uncrewed automated docking of Cosmos 186 and Cosmos 188 spacecrafts, and then China demonstrated its docking capability in 2011 when the unmanned Shenzhou 8 spacecraft docked with the Tiangong 1 space laboratory. A year later, it demonstrated the first crewed space docking with the astronauts manually joining the Shenzhou 9 spacecraft to the same laboratory as well. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that the timeline or the difference between when the US and Russia achieved this versus even when China was able to achieve it, and now India, almost a decade later, is hoping to achieve the same. What really are the complications or the R&D that India needs to focus on, because this is not essentially new technology, but it is new for India, and we've made so many gains of leaps and bounds as far as space technology is concerned. In your view, what really will be the specific areas that India needs to target, and what is it that you think India is actually wanting to hope to demonstrate to the world?
Yeah, actually, you see, one thing I want to just correct that there are a lot of new technologies involved as far as ISRO is concerned. These technologies nobody gives, like America, Russia or China, to other countries, and India has to develop indigenously all these technologies here only. It is just like cryogenic technology or something like that. So India has developed quite more than, I think, 10 new technologies for this experiment. And this is a very complex mission. And another thing is, ISRO scientists have been working on this since last 10 years. From that, one can see how complex it will be. And see, India has actually got limited budget. Okay. Now, for example, this experiment, the sanctioned budget was 150 crores for the 2 satellites and 250 crores for 1 rocket. Now, within that, there's so many experiments ISRO wanted to make, so that, they wanted to save time and money for making different experiments and different missions. Because every mission, if it is a new launch, is going to cost additionally 250 to 300 crores plus for the satellite. And we wanted to have our brilliant scientists have plans to carry out many experiments in one mission. Okay, for example, we already have demonstrated in this experiment, SpaDex, about the robotic arm. Robotic arm will be essential for the sample return mission in Chandrayaan 4. Okay, and that was added on this mission itself, and it has successfully worked. It was demonstrated, and real TV video has come about that. Similarly, this kind of docking mechanism has got many future applications, where, in fact, let me tell you, where docking mechanism becomes essential, where multiple launchers are used. Okay, if you have got only one launcher required for the mission objective, then docking may not be required. But if you have got, in this particular case, one launcher is used to carry out the docking experiment. But in Chandrayaan 4, sample return mission, etc., there will be two launchers. So two different units in space, they had to be either undocked or docked. Similarly, Indian on moon. You see, we have got limitation on our rocket payload carrying capability. So we normally don't go like America, Russia, or China. They have got huge capacity for carrying their payloads, and in one shot they can perhaps achieve their mission objective. But on the other side, their missions are very expensive because of that, because the fuel is very expensive, and they will spend a lot of fuel compared to what India spends. So there are pros and cons on this. Secondly, we have to go ahead with available rockets and achieve the maximum. So that ambitious, intention on mine, we are going ahead with this particular experiment. And second thing is having a crewed docking experiment means you have to wait for our next mission, that is sending astronauts in space. That itself we have not achieved, and then we have to carry out this experiment. You see, in crewed mission and uncrewed mission, carrying out such technologies, the advantages and disadvantages are, the risk factor for the human life is tremendous, and we just cannot afford any failure chances. On the other side, also, if it is a uncrewed mission, then at least you don't have that risk factor. Okay, even if unfortunately there is a failure, you are going to lose all the mission elements like rocket and spacecraft, but definitely you will get a lot of feedback and you can correct the mistakes what one has committed there. So that is why we are going now for the uncrewed mission. Okay, that is the first thing. And now I want to explain to the viewers particularly what is exactly happening in space. What happens is, now this is an autonomous operation between the two spacecraft. Now if you want to have autonomous operation, then there have to be accurate algorithms. Algorithm is nothing but a defined procedures and formulae, which will control, which will navigate, and which will help making decision between themselves without intervention of the ground control. So algorithms precisely to be fed into the spacecraft is very essential. Now, when you are at a 15-meter distance stage between the spacecraft, that is an extremely crucial stage. India has already demonstrated they have come from 15-meter, the longer separation distance to 15-meter. They are again now going back. Why they are going back? Because now they have obtained a lot of data from the previous operation. Okay, and that data they are going to revise all the algorithms, make it more precise, and want to ensure that any slight adjustments required for the position, etc.
Okay, I want to bring in. Okay, let's bring in Mr. P.K. Ghosh into the conversation as well. Mr. P.K. Ghosh, if you could perhaps shed further light for our viewers on why this is such a crucial mission for India. What is it that India is hoping to really demonstrate to the world? We've just heard Mr. Nayak point out how we are also doing it within a very limited budget, which is something that ISRO has really succeeded at in the past as well, with the Chandrayaan mission, which was conducted extremely successfully, and also the landing and the spot for the landing was for the first time in the world, but the budget difference was phenomenal compared to perhaps how much a NASA would spend on a similar mission. So besides, however, the money aspect of it, in your opinion, what is it that you think India will be able to demonstrate to the world if we are successful in this mission?
See, firstly, thank you. Firstly, let me mention that, as was mentioned earlier, all this technology that we are demonstrating is essentially not available just off the shelf. That is, though US, Soviet Union, now Russia, then China have got this technology, nobody is going to give it to you on a platter. So invariably what has happened is that our ISRO scientists have had to work on it, and there are many anecdotes which one can quote, but I'm not going into that, to create our own indigenous technologies, be it cryogenic engine, be it, and there is a whole list of it. This is no exception as far as the docking and the undocking is concerned. You're mentioning in the 60s, you're mentioning in the 70s, and probably even into 2011 when the Chinese did it. But we are doing it so late. Well, we are reaching there. But mind you, we are the fourth country in the world to be able to do it, and I know we will be able to do it very soon. Now, there's another aspect. As was mentioned, yes, we have come up to 3 meters, then we are checking the algorithms, then probably going a little back. First it was 200, 250, 10 meters, then 3 meters, 15 meters, then 3 meters, and so on and so forth. Now, we are doing it. The essence is, just remember that they are, for all the viewers, they are 476 kilometers up in the sky. They are both moving, that is, the chaser as well as the target, and they have to come close and dock in such a way that the relative speed is zero. If they hit too hard, one will get spoiled, and there might be, it might break, something might break. So it's quite a dicey thing to do, but we are doing it. I will not go into details because it has already been explained. Now let me come to another aspect. So that will make us the fourth country in the world, and we require, as it was mentioned, we require this for numerous reasons. If you see in the international space stations, at times there are about 4 to 5 spacecrafts that have been docked over there. If you want to keep the Bharatiya Antariksh Station, which is going to come in 2028 to 2030, up in the sky, you need supply ships. You need something that will give supply to the spacecraft. What can happen? You need a docking station. Apart from that, much more nearer is the Chandrayaan issue. If we are going to get the samples, there's going to be a lander which will land on the moon. There'll be an orbiter. It'll have to come up, dock with the orbiter, which will essentially come back to Earth. So docking technology is extremely important. Later on, people have not talked about it. If we have a space station in the moon, if you are going to do asteroid mining, and so on and so forth. But I'm not going into, I do not know why. This is probably the focus of only the docking and undocking. But please remember, in this space flight, there were about 24 payloads. And only one was mentioned, that is the robotic arm, which has been, there were 10 by ISRO itself, 10 by the non-governmental entities, and 14 by ISRO. And they had a host, green fuel, robotic arm, then there was the synthetic aperture radar, and a host of them. So all those are also going on, and as far as I know, most of them will be successful. It takes time. So they are in the process of being successful. What people are all focused now on is docking and undocking, obviously, because that's a new technology which we are going to master, and it is taking some time, but we should not, I think, be concerned about it, because I'm concerned as far as a viewer, I'm saying, not as far as a scientist who's working over there. I think we will reach there, and we should not even for a moment forget that the other payloads are also working, they are also experiments, they are also new things. For example, there is this issue of plant life, plants being grown in microgravity, which has been, I think, taken up by one of the universities over there, Amity. Now, that has been done long time back, by 2010, in fact, 2010 or 11, when the Americans thought about it. Because we want to grow plants in the moon, we want to grow plants in the space station, where they are already growing, by the way. So the question is, some people might think, well, those people have done it 10, 15 years ago, why
Yes.
not us? We are reaching there. And I think we are taking steady steps, and we will soon be there, not only for the docking, undocking, but all the other payloads that are working.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much for that perspective. Wing Commander S. Sudhakaran also with us. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, I'll leave the last word with you, sir. We've discussed in detail so far, of course, why this technology is crucial, how it will work out. But what is it that ISRO or India at this point in time also really needs to keep in mind as far as developing this technology is concerned? If you can perhaps shed some light on that, what are some considerations to keep in mind?
See, to my mind, this technology is an enabler. We have to understand that our immediate next target is to basically look at how we establish our International Space Station. The moment we are aspiring for something as big as that, we need docking to be in place, because these things are going to be manned, and putting a human being in space means seamless transfer of people, both from the spacecraft to the station and station to the spacecraft. You have of late have seen that Sunita Williams has got stuck there for over 8 months, and they have not been able to find a way to bring her back. These kind of things cannot be accepted in the future times, and therefore it is very important that we master these technologies from the strategic perspective, both from future, when we are going to launch missions far into the deeper space, wherein space-bound capsules will need to be launched both from Earth and then transferred mid-space for greater orbital endeavors. This particular technology is going to be crucial in all these things. There is also a greater talk about militarization of space. How that will pander and turn out, again, these kind of technologies are going to be the foundational basis for those. So it's a good start, though it is late. It is better late than never. And then with the kind of technology evolution that we are seeing in our times, with AI being the way that it is evolving, the research that we're going to do now, the data that we're going to generate out of that is going to be very crucial in taking things forward. And therefore, kudos to India that we have invested in it. Kudos to the, this will be a booster to the Gaganyaan mission, and ultimately the Bharat Antariksh station, which we are dreaming of in the near future.
Right, absolutely. That's all the time that we have, and I thank all of our guests for joining us on the broadcast to take this very pertinent conversation forward. With our viewers, we step into a quick short break.